I was sitting in the waiting room of my gynecologist's office, anxiously tapping my foot on the ground. I had a lot on my mind, and the last thing I needed was any additional stress. That's when I heard a familiar voice. Is that you, Sarah? My mother-in-law's voice echoed through the room. I looked up and saw her standing in front of me with a surprised look on her face. I have always had a tense relationship with my mother-in-law. She's never liked me, and I have never liked her. We've always been polite to each other, but there has never been any real warmth between us. My mother-in-law is the type of person who always puts on a show. She's always smiling, always telling jokes, and always trying to be the life of the party. But underneath all of that, there is a dark side to her. She can be manipulative, controlling, and downright cruel. She has always resented me for taking her son away from her, and she has never missed an opportunity to remind me of that fact. My mother-in-law is a difficult person to deal with. She's always trying to control everything and everyone around her, and she can be very manipulative when she doesn't get her way. She has never approved of me, and I think that's partly because I come from a different background than her. She comes from a wealthy family and has always lived a privileged life, while I come from a more modest background. I think she resents the fact that her son chose to marry someone who is not from the same social class as her. She has always made comments about my job and the way I dress, and she has never made an effort to get to know me or my family. Despite all of this, I have always tried to be polite to her and show her respect. I know how important family is to my husband, and I don't want to cause any unnecessary drama. As soon as she saw the man sitting next to me, her expression turned from surprise to suspicion. "Who is this?" she asked, eyeing him suspiciously. "This is my lawyer," I said, hoping that that would be enough to satisfy her curiosity. But she wasn't satisfied. She started listing off all the consequences that could happen if I didn't give her money. She said that she had a few credit card debts and she would rather I pay them off than her, and that if I didn't give in to her, she would tell my husband that I was having an affair with the man beside me. I was taken aback by her sudden demand. I had no idea what she was talking about, but I knew it couldn't be good. As she ranted on, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread wash over me. I had come to the gynecologist's office with my lawyer because I had been diagnosed with something and was about to have an operation soon. It was shocking and terrifying, and I needed my lawyer's support to help me navigate the medical system and my insurance coverage. I had been feeling overwhelmed and scared about my health, and the last thing I needed was my mother-in-law's sudden demand for money. As she continued to list off the consequences of not giving her the money, I felt a knot form in my stomach. I couldn't believe that she was doing this to me, and I couldn't understand why she thought it was okay to blackmail me like this. I tried to stay calm and composed, but inside I was seething with anger. How dare she try to take advantage of me when I was going through such a difficult time? I knew that I had to stand up to her, but I also knew that it wouldn't be easy. I knew that I couldn't let her win. I took a deep breath and stood up to her, telling her that I would not be blackmailed. She got angry and started shouting at me, telling me that I was a terrible wife and that I didn't deserve to be with her son. I remained firm, telling her that I would not give her any money and that she needed to stop threatening me. As she continued to yell, I noticed that other people in the waiting room were staring at us. I started to feel embarrassed and ashamed. Here I was arguing with my mother-in-law in a gynecologist's waiting room while other women sat around us waiting for their appointments. I could feel their judgmental stares burning into me. That's when I had an idea. I pulled out the report that was in my bag and started to read it out loud. The report was actually a diagnosis that I had received from the gynecologist, detailing a serious medical condition that I had been struggling with for the past few months. As I read out the details of my diagnosis, I could see the shock and horror on the faces of the people in the waiting room. They had gone from staring at us in annoyance to looking at me with sympathy and concern. My mother-in-law, on the other hand, had gone from angry to pale and visibly shaken. She had not known about my condition, and the weight of her actions suddenly hit her. As I finished reading the report, my mother-in-law started to sob uncontrollably. She was embarrassed and realized the gravity of what she had done and how it had affected me. Suddenly, security arrived and escorted her out of the building. My lawyer sat me down, offering words of comfort and support. He told me that we could file a restraining order against my mother-in-law if necessary, and that we could also pursue legal action against her for harassment and blackmail. Finally, my name was called, and I have whisked away to my appointment. I know that my husband is going to be upset when he hears about this. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down before my appointment. But as I sat in the exam room, waiting for the doctor to arrive, I couldn't help but think about what my mother-in-law had done and how it would affect my relationship with my husband. My husband and I have been married for 5 years, and we have always had a strong relationship. He is my rock, my support system, and my best friend. However, his relationship with his mother has always been complicated. He loves her, but he also knows that she can be manipulative and difficult to deal with. He has always tried to keep the peace between us, but I know that deep down he wishes his mother would treat me better. After the incident at the gynecologist's office, my husband was furious with his mother. He was so angry that he couldn't even speak to her on the phone and refused to see her in person. It was clear that he had had enough of her manipulative behavior and constant unnecessary demands for money. He was sick of her trying to control our lives, and he made it clear to her that he would no longer tolerate her behavior. I could see the pain in his eyes as he decided to cut his mother off. It was not an easy choice for him to make, but he knew that it was the right thing to do for our relationship and our family's well-being. He told me that he had been thinking about doing this for a long time, but had always held out hope that his mother would change. But after what she had done at the gynecologist's office, he knew that enough was enough. He was hurt that his mother could treat me, his wife, in such a cruel and manipulative way. He knew that I had done nothing to deserve her treatment, and that it was time for him to take a stand. We knew that it was the right thing to do, and that our relationship would be better for it in the long run. His decision to cut his mother off was a painful one, but it was also a necessary one. We both knew that we cannot continue to live under the constant threat of her manipulation and control. Honestly, I thought it was the best thing that could have happened for our family. Update 1. A week had passed since my husband made the difficult decision to cut his mother off, and we hadn't heard from her. We were both relieved to have some peace in our lives, but one day she showed up unannounced at our door, begging for forgiveness and promising to change her ways. My husband was furious with her and refused to accept her apology. He told her that her behavior had put me under immense stress at a critical time, and that he couldn't let her back into our lives until she proved that she was truly sorry and willing to change. His mother was shocked and hurt by his response, but my husband stood firm. He yelled at her that he couldn't allow her to manipulate and control us anymore, and that if she wanted a relationship with us, she needed to respect our boundaries and treat us with kindness and respect. After a few minutes' silence, his mother finally spoke up. She apologized again and promised to work on herself and her behavior. But my husband wasn't convinced. He told her that he needed time to process everything and that he would reach out to her when he was ready. His mother left our house in tears. It was time for her to take responsibility for her actions. It's clear that the mother-in-law has boundary issues and doesn't understand that her behavior is inappropriate. She showed no consideration for the fact that OP was at a gynecologist's office, which is a private and sensitive setting. NTA, cutting her off is a good decision, especially with OP's operation coming up. Mother-in-law is clearly emotionally abusive and greedy. How can you ask someone else to pay off your credit card debt? And the fact that she tried to blackmail her for being there with her lawyer. NTA, these types of people deserve to be publicly embarrassed. Next story. My husband's aunt recently adopted her ex-husband's son. A little backstory first, as that's probably confusing. My husband's aunt, 55, female, separated from her husband several years ago, 60, male. He ended up getting with this lady which he had a child with. She had a medical emergency and unfortunately passed away last year at 39. Due to his age, her ex-husband gave custody of his son to his ex-wife, with his older son being next in line if something happens to her. Anyways, he turned 4 years old a few days ago and we were invited to his party. Myself, my stepdaughter, and her husband, plus my 4 younger children, all attended. While we were singing happy birthday, the little boy started licking all over the top of the cake. Immediately, my stepdaughter looked at me funny, and I knew she wasn't going to touch that with a 10-foot pole. My husband's aunt found it hilarious and started recording it. Then another 4-year-old joined in and started in on it as well. My youngest children, 8 female, 6 female, 4 male, and 2 male, were just kind of standing on the side in amazement, and my 8-year-old said, "Mom, I don't have to eat that, right?" I shook my head, no. Well, when it comes to cake cutting time, she approaches us and said, since we have the biggest group, that she would give us all large slices of cake. I declined, and declined for my children as well. She starts throwing a fit and says that the cake cost her $100 and we have to eat some because she bought a larger cake because of our large family. My stepdaughter chimed and told her it was wet and she wasn't eating anything covered in spit and that she should have stopped him from licking all over the top. Aunt ended up getting really angry, so we just left to go home. Since then, I've received several nasty messages from extended family saying we could have just scraped the icing off and she spent more money because of us and that we need to apologize. AITA? Edit to add. She's still very mad over the entire thing. She's called my husband to say we disrespected her in her home and made her son feel bad that no one ate his cake with him. She claims we should be more understanding of him since he lost his bio mom. He watched her have her medical emergency and talks about it often. She's now using that as a pawn to excuse his behavior. We just didn't want to eat it since it was soggy. She claims that we could have just ate around it to spare the child's feelings. It becomes an entire ordeal. I don't think I'm going to invite them to my son's birthday party this weekend, as I don't know how she's going to behave. I have a feeling she would try to ruin my son's cake on purpose to be spiteful. NTA, no way I'd be touching that germ-ridden cake either. I get that kids spread germs very easily, but that's just plain disgusting and not something that should be encouraged. Invite her to your house for dinner as a peace offering. When she's sitting at the table, make a plate for her, but before you pass it over, have one of your kids lick every item on her plate. Insist she eat it all because you spent a lot of money on the food. I wonder if she'd get the point. Probably not. Huge NTA. She's one, though, and so is everyone who sent you a nasty message over the situation. NTA. She should have had a separate small smash cake for the kid that he can destroy and one for everyone else as to not get spit and germs on. That's what you do with young kids. And if you can't afford 2 cakes, you make sure they don't destroy the one other people are supposed to eat. Also, we are still in the age of COVID. It's just not safe anymore. Next story. I, female, 28, started dating a guy back when I was 20. We'll call him Matt. Matt, at the time we started dating, was 27. Slightly inappropriate, yes, but that's not that relevant to the story. Matt had a daughter, Sally, who was 4 years old when we got together. Is now 12. Her mom, Kate, and Matt split when Sally was 1. There weren't any drama. They shared custody. I wasn't fully on board with the step-parent thing when I was 20. I was very young. But when I met Sally, we kind of fell in love. Because my school days were very short and with a lot of self-study, I'd often take her sick days, and I had plenty of time to play. So we bonded quite fast. Kate and I were on good terms. We weren't friends, but we respected each other, and I did my best to abide by her rules. Matt and I split after 3 years together. It was a tough decision, mostly because of Sally. Matt knew how much Sally and I loved each other, and we decided I should still stay in Sally's life. We had a lot less time, but I was thankful. As time progressed, I'd still see Sally at least once a month, being a sitter if her parents were out and taking her out to play if she asked to see me. When I graduated, her and Matt were there along with my then fiance, and when I got married to my now husband last year, she was the flower girl. She's a preteen now, and we've gotten closer because she finds it awkward talking with her mom and dad about all the changes she's going through. I only talk to her about things I know her parents already discussed. She's always welcome at my house, has a key. Kate and I don't really have any contact. I only talk to her when I'm at Sally's or Matt's birthday. As always, she's not interested in me. I'm pregnant with my first. I decided to tell Sally and Matt last weekend. Sally was really excited, but afterwards she's been distant in answering my texts. Yesterday I asked her if she wanted to come to my house. She agreed, and I asked what was wrong. She didn't want to say at first, but then she said she was just sad I was going to have a baby. She always wanted a baby sister and never had one. I understood she was also scared she and I wouldn't be the same. I hugged her and said she would always be my first baby, that she was still as welcome as she'd always been, and my baby would love to have a big sister. She was really happy. Matt called me and asked about my conversation with Sally. I told him the truth. He told me Kate was furious with me, that she and Sally had been drifting apart and I was making it worse, basically accepting Sally as my daughter. Sally had gotten really mad at her mom for being angry and has moved to her dad's temporarily. My husband says he understands my view, but that I have to remember Sally has a mother who might feel she has competition now that Sally is in the phase of her life that she is. Matt clearly thinks I need to back off. I still haven't heard from Kate. Sally is sad she's not allowed to see me. AITA? Edit for clarification. Wow, I didn't expect this to get so much attention. Thank you. I just wanted to clear something up as I have seen this a lot. I didn't see Sally once a month. I saw her at least once a month, especially since she grew a bit older. It's been more weekly. And during summer breaks, we go hiking for days together. Once she stayed with me for 2 weeks while both her parents were on vacation. I still haven't heard from Kate. I appreciate all your advice. I'll update when something happens. NTA, you may have used words that inflamed Kate, but your heart was in the right place by reassuring Sally that yours and her relationship will always be special and that it will not be harmed by the arrival of your own biological child. Let things cool down a bit, then talk with Matt about how best to reinforce that Sally's biomom is Kate and that you have no wish to undermine that relationship. And at some point, you need to discuss with Sally the complexity of her relationships among her various parental figures, biological, step, and ex-step. YTA, apparently unpopular, but you were never her mom and shouldn't never try to be. When you and Matt split, if you wanted to remain in her life, then you should have taken an auntie or big cousin type of role. You can be in a child's life and still not try to play the role of second mom, dad, which you are not. Why you continue to try to position yourself as a second mom and as a mom-daughter relationship, and why Matt didn't insist on setting that boundary is beyond me, but you have been out of line. NAH, but you need to talk to Sally and let her know that this is delicate and can hurt her mom and that you aren't a replacement. You need to talk to Kate and be clear you are not trying to replace her, that you know it's hard, and help restate the things you are doing to help not seem like you are taking her place. You are doing a good thing, but it's a tough situation you're in. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.